Buenos días. Disculpen la demora. Please pardon the delay. I'm Jose Carrion, Chair of the Board. I'd like to welcome everyone to this 8th meeting of the Financial Oversight and Management Board for Puerto Rico. I would like to ask the attendance cooperation from the folks here today in order to conduct a productive meeting, keeping cell phones in silent mode and abstaining from conversation and comments. I'd like to call, do we have them on? Okay. I'd like to call the roll call to determine quorum. Dr. Biggs?
Present.
Carlos Garcia? Carlos? Carlos, are you on the phone?
Yes, I am on the phone.
Thank you, sir. Judge Gonzalez?
Present, I'm on the phone.
Thank you, sir. Jose Ramon Gonzalez?
Present, on the phone. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Ana Mato Santos?
Present.
Professor Skeel?
Present.
Licenciado Sanchez?
Present.
A quorum being present, the meeting is now called to order. I would like to ask our General Counsel, Jaime El Curi, to act as Secretary for this meeting. And I would like to recognize the presence of various government officials. Mr. Gerardo Portela, Executive Director of the Puerto Rico Fiscal Agency and Financial Advisory Authority. Mr. Cristian Sobrino, President of the GDB for Puerto Rico. Mr. Carlos Contreras, Secretario de Departamento de Obras Públicas. Mr. Eli Díaz Atienza, Executive Director for PRASA. And Mr. Ricardo Ramos. Are we here? We are not. Okay, so anyway, thank you all for your attendance to this 8th meeting of the board, the 4th being held in Puerto Rico. And also everyone that is watching the live stream of the meeting via the board's website, www.oversightboard.pr.gov. I am pleased to say that the audio of this meeting via the webcast is available in English and simultaneous Spanish translation. If you log into the English website, the audio will be English, and if you log into the Spanish website, you will hear the simultaneous translation. Today, we will cover the following issues on the agenda. Approval of the 4/28/2017 meeting minutes, report by myself, administrative matters, presentation of the budget for the Commonwealth of Puerto Rico, assessment and recommendations of the Commonwealth budget, public comment on the Commonwealth budget, discussion and certification of the Commonwealth budget. Discussion and proposed certification of Title III proceedings for Puerto Rico Electric Power Authority. Presentation of the proposed budget for Government Development Bank of Puerto Rico. Assessment and recommendations of the proposed budget for GDB. Discussion and certification of the proposed budget for GDB. Presentation of the proposed budget for Puerto Rico Highways and Transportation. Assessment and recommendations of the proposed budget for HTA. Discussion and certification of proposed budget of HTA. Presentation and proposed budget for Puerto Rico Aqueduct and Sewer Authority, PRASA. Assessment and recommendations of the proposed budget for PRASA. Discussion and certifications of proposed budget for PRASA. Lastly, presentation of the proposed budget for the Puerto Rico Electric Power Authority, PREPA. Assessment and recommendations of the proposed budget and certification of the proposed said budget for PREPA. Let's begin. Presentation of the Commonwealth budget and the proposed budgets for covered instrumentalities. On the 2nd of June, 2017, the board approved the submission to the legislature of the governor's proposed budget for fiscal year 2018. In its transmission of the proposed budget to the legislature, the board expressed certain concerns regarding the proposed budget and established a procedure to resolve them. Since then, representatives of the governor and the legislature and the board's experts, consultants, and attorneys engaged in extensive discussions to arrive at a common understanding about the proposed budget. On the 26th of June 2017, the board received a budget adopted by the legislature, and after analyzing and deliberating it, the board delivered to the legislature on June 27th a notice of violation pursuant to Promesa 202, in which it described the necessary corrective actions to be taken by the legislature in order to have a compliant budget, and gave the legislature the opportunity to revise said adopted budget. Today, we will hear the governor's recommended changes to the budget that the governor submitted for the board consideration, and then proceed to present the Commonwealth budget as revised by the board. In addition, the board received proposed budgets for the covered territorial instrumentalities as specified above. After reviewing said proposed budgets with the governor's representatives and analyzing and deliberating them, the board recommended revisions to the same and gave the governor's representatives the opportunity to revise the proposed budgets. Thereafter, representatives of the governor and the board's experts, consultants, and attorneys engaged in extensive discussions to arrive at a common understanding about the proposed budgets. Today, the government will make a presentation of the proposed budgets for these covered territorial instrumentalities, which takes into account those discussions and deliberations. Number 2, assessment and recommendations of the Commonwealth budget and the proposed budgets for covered instrumentalities. The board has assessed the Commonwealth budget and the proposed budgets for the specified covered territorial instrumentalities and will make a presentation of its assessments and certain recommendations of them. Discussion and certification of Title III for PREPA. The board will discuss the request by the government to certify a Title III petition for PREPA. After each presentation, we will open the floor for questions and comments from the audience. Discussion and certification of the Commonwealth budget and the proposed budgets for covered territorial instrumentalities. Pursuant to Section 202E of Promesa, after the presentations by the government and the board and any public comments thereon, the board will then proceed to discuss the Commonwealth budget and the proposed budgets for the specified covered territorial instrumentality and vote on the certification thereof. Members of the board will be given the opportunity to express their own views prior to voting on certification. The board will not be considering today either the fiscal plans or budgets for the public corporation for the supervision and deposit insurance of Puerto Rico, known in Spanish as COSEC, or the University of Puerto Rico, as those plans and budgets have not been finalized. Let us then move on and take up the agenda for today's work. Approval of the minutes of the last meeting. Our first order of business is to approve the minutes of the board's last meeting held on the 28th of April, 2017. The proposed minutes are included in your meeting materials. Does anyone have any questions about these minutes? Okay. There being no questions, I would like to ask for a motion to approve the minutes.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to approve the minutes of the board's meeting on April 28th as submitted.
Would anybody like to second the motion?
Mr. Chairman, I second the motion.
Okay.
I'd like to second that motion, Mr. Chair.
Then I'd like a voice vote. First, those in favor, please say yes, and then those opposed say no. Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes, yes.
Yes. Francisco, we're going to have to raise the volume a little bit on the, okay. All members having voted in favor of the motion, the minutes are approved. Let me continue now by providing a board with a brief report. The board, as you know, has been established under Promesa, the Puerto Rico Oversight Management Stability Act, and the purpose is to provide a method for Puerto Rico to achieve fiscal responsibility, including pro-growth fiscal reforms, access to capital markets, and infrastructure revitalization. The board is also tasked with working with the people and the government of Puerto Rico to create the necessary foundation for economic growth and restore opportunity to our people. At our previous public meetings, I have recounted the board's steps as required or allowed by Promesa to accomplish its statutory mandates. Today, I will restrict my remarks to progress made after the 7th public meeting on the 28th of April, 2017. As you recall, at that meeting, the board certified the fiscal plan of GDB, HTA, PRASA, and PREPA, subject to some changes, subject in some cases to certain amendments. Since the meeting, the board and the government have been working hard to implement the fiscal plans and their amendments, as well as preparing itself to receive compliant budgets from these instrumentalities. As previously mentioned, the board approved on the 2nd of June the submission to the legislature of the governor's proposed budget for the Commonwealth, and has been engaged with both branches of government since then in order to receive a compliant budget. Significantly, also since our last public meeting, the board took actions to petition the District Court of Puerto Rico to accept Title III filings for the Commonwealth COFINA HTA and the Government of Puerto Rico ERS system. The Chief Justice of the United States Supreme Court appointed Judge Laura Taylor Swain to preside over Title III actions, and she in turn appointed 5 judges to mediate certain aspects of the cases. Administrative matters. I am pleased to announce that since our last meeting, the members of the board and its staff have publicly released on the board's website updated financial interest disclosure forms, including quarterly financial disclosures for 3 months ended on March 31st. This information has been reviewed by the board's ethics advisor. As we have previously said, our governance documents, including PROMESA itself, our bylaws, and our code of conduct require disclosure of conflict of interest, an obligation we plan to adhere to faithfully.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion concerning the unanimous written consents that the board has entered into in the last few weeks. And this will be a kind of a long motion, so I need to read a number of unanimous written consent. So here is what the resolution that I propose will sound like. The board confirms and approves the following unanimous written consents adopted by the board since the adjournment of the board's last public meeting. 1, unanimous written consent dated May 3, 2017, approving and issuing certifications pursuant to sections 104 and 206 of PROMESA for the Commonwealth of Puerto Rico. 2, unanimous written consent dated May 3, 2017, repealing resolutions adopted May 1, 2017, involving COFINA. 3, unanimous written consent dated May 3, 2017, approving and issuing certifications pursuant to sections 104 and 206 of PROMESA for the Commonwealth of Puerto Rico. 4, unanimous written consent dated May 5, 2017, delegating authority to issue procedural guidelines for maintaining the confidence of investigatory records compiled for law enforcement purposes. 5, unanimous written consent dated May 5, 2017, approving and issuing certifications pursuant to sections 104 and 206 of PROMESA for the Puerto Rico Sales Tax Financing Corporation, COFINA. 6, unanimous written consent dated May 21, 2017, approving and issuing certifications pursuant to sections 104 and 206 of PROMESA for the Puerto Rico Highways and Transportation Authority, HTA. 7, unanimous written consent dated May 21, 2017, approving and issuing certifications pursuant to sections 104 and 206 of PROMESA for the Employees Retirement System of the Government of the Commonwealth of Puerto Rico, ERS. 8, unanimous written consent dated May 21, 2017, approving certified fiscal plan as corrected. 9, unanimous written consent dated May 31, 2017, approving submission of the Commonwealth's fiscal year 2018 budget to the legislature, and confirming that the board made the following determinations since the adjournment of the board's last public meeting. Not to certify the Restructuring Support Agreement, the RSA, of the Puerto Rico Electric Power Authority, PREPA, pursuant to PROMESA section 104(i)(1). Not to certify the RSA pursuant to PROMESA section 601(g)(2)(a) or 601(g)(2)(b). Not to approve the issuances of debt embodied in the RSA pursuant to PROMESA section 207, and not to authorize PREPA pursuant to PROMESA Section 601E to be eligible to avail itself of the procedures under PROMESA Section 601. Not to authorize the RSA as an agreement eligible for certification or qualification under PROMESA as a pre-existing voluntary agreement due to its open terms and failure to provide for material components of a restructuring, including the financing of its closing and environmental requirements costing over $500 million. And that's the end of the resolution.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to second the motion.
Like a voice vote, please. Those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Yes. Those
Yes.
opposed say no.
Yes.
All members having voted in favor of the motion, the resolution is approved. The resolutions have passed unanimously.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make the following motion. Resolution. Between the adjournment of this meeting and the opening of the board's next public meeting, the board may consider in executive session any and all matters that it is authorized to consider under PROMESA, including first, any certifications, First, any certification determinations authorized PROMESA, including certification determinations under Section 206 of PROMESA. Second, any submissions or authorizations authorized by PROMESA. And third, any filings authorized under Title III of PROMESA in each case that are set forth as part of the vote to convene such executive session. The board may also act by unanimous written consent between meetings in accordance with the bylaws, with such consent to include consent by email.
Does anybody second the
Mr.
motion?
Chairman, Mr. Chairman, Jose Gonzalez, I will second that motion.
Great. Then I'd like to ask for a voice vote. Those in favor, please say yes.
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 All members having voted in favor of the motion, the resolution is approved, and it has passed unanimously. Now let's move on to the presentation of the Commonwealth budget, assessment, and recommendations of said budget. I would like now to invite the governor's representative, Licenciado Elias Sanchez, to explain the recommended changes to the budget that the governor submitted to the board.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. These copies down. In response to the corrective actions requested by the Financial Oversight and Management Board, the government of Puerto Rico has submitted a proposal before the board to be considered to meet the requirements. Number one, in additional legislative expenditures, to correct the additional reductions in the legislative expenditures requested as corrective action number one, the government identified a special appropriation in Joint Resolution 186, page 34, line 9, that was eliminated, creating an offsetting savings of $15 million for fiscal year 2018. Joint Resolution 186, page 34, line 9, reads adjustments to budgetary appropriations for the payment of judgments that are currently or will be stayed in the Title III proceedings of the Commonwealth. We understand that this requirement is based on the perspective of a 10% cut across the executive and the legislative branches in
pension costs related to the transition of the pension systems to a pay-as-you-go liability. There's additional local government healthcare funding embedded in the budget to offset the loss in federal funds. There are additional capital expenditures consistent with the fiscal plan, capital expenditure plan. And there's a reduction in revenues due to continued economic contraction on the island. In terms of cost reducers, consistent with the fiscal plan, there are several measures: personnel, non-personnel savings. There are additional Medicaid funds that were provided by the federal government, and other measures, including improved tax compliance, that help to offset the increased costs. If you look at the numbers for the consolidated budget, and this incorporates both the general fund, which is the primary vehicle by which the government operates, as well as federal funds and component unit funds, you'll see that this year's budget, which is the chart all the way on the right, decreases slightly from last year on a consolidated spending basis. However, if you were to back out or remove or look at spending prior to these incremental costs, most notably the increased allocations to pensions and the increased allocation to healthcare funding that the local government must contribute, spending is actually significantly lower than last year's budget on a consolidated basis. Furthermore, if we look at this year's budget on a consolidated basis, a majority of spending is allocated to several key areas: education, public safety, health, welfare, and economic development. You can see that these key areas receive well over a majority of the budget allocation in this year's consolidated budget. The largest component, or one of the largest components of the consolidated budget, is the general fund. This is the primary tool by which the government tends to allocate spending across its agencies. Here again, similar to the consolidated budget, if you look at spending before these incremental costs, in this case, the incremental pension allocations that are required, as the top line number would have you believe. The next page just shows some of these allocations to some of the key agencies. And you can see here, consistent with the fiscal plan, many agencies are incurring budget reductions. For instance, consider the Department of Education. Relative to last year, the chart all the way on the left in the dark blue, the spending is going down. The budget this year also includes several reductions to different subsidies and appropriations as well, consistent with the fiscal plan. And finally, we'd just like to spend a few moments talking about a few key elements and categories of the budget and how money and appropriations were allocated. If you look here, in terms of healthcare, the government is facing a significant reduction in federal healthcare money over the next several fiscal years. This year's budget includes this transition funding where the local government must contribute significantly more money than it has in the past to ensure that the continued operation of the healthcare system. You see that here with an additional approximately $450 million in healthcare funds that were not in prior year budgets. Similarly on pensions, you'll see on the chart on the top right, unlike historical years, significantly more money is being allocated to help with the transition of the pension systems to a pay-as-you-go basis, and as you can see on the chart on the bottom right, as the systems run out of their liquid and illiquid assets.
With respect to payroll costs, this year's budget shows a reduction as compared to the prior years. This trend is consistent with historical headcount trends, and it is important to note that this reduction is achieved through attrition, which has averaged about 2% in the last few years, and also a reduction in transitory employees. This reduction is a key component of the proposed right-sizing of the government and is consistent with the fiscal plan. In terms of capital expenditure, the budget increases the allocation of capital expenditures. These levels are consistent with the fiscal plan, and only a small portion of the increase is being funded through the general fund. With respect to debt service, no debt service has been included in the budget that is being funded by the general fund. The debt service will be allocated as a result of Title VI settlements or as a result of Title III plan of adjustments approved by the court. That concludes our presentation on the budget.
Thank you very much, Mr. Santambroglio and Mr. Chepnik. Now I'd like to open the floor for comments regarding the budget. People have up to 3 minutes to express their view in a respectful manner. Please stand up. The microphone will be brought to you. Please state your name and your affiliation, if any, and please speak as clearly as possible. Would anybody like to? The representative would like to speak. Welcome, Representative Hernandez.
Thank you, Mr. President. My name is Rafael Hernandez Montañez. I am the leader of the minority delegation of the Popular Democratic Party in the Puerto Rico House of Representatives. I want to express the concern of my delegation regarding the performance of the Oversight Board. Frankly, Mr. President, and other distinguished members of the board, my delegation is confused. In the absence of a written protocol as to how the board shares with the public its working documents to justify its decisions and deliberations, the public only listens to the governor representative of the board express breaking news. Every time the board discusses issues related to our fiscal crisis, the problem is that immediately, therefore, some official release from the board contradict what has been said. Let me give you an example. The governor's representative stated unequivocally that there will not be reductions in the labor costs by cutting the numbers of hours worked, yet the board has consistently said that you reserve the right to implement such reductions. The governor's representative has stated unequivocally that there will not be reduction in pension benefit, yet the board has said the pension should be adjusted. Is the governor representative speaks for the board as one of its members, or is he the spokesperson of the governor? I'm sure that you agree with me that this lack of transparency of information to the people of Puerto Rico is inadequate. In any democracy, the right to the people to be informed and how the government spending and government review raising revenues will affect their daily life fundamentals. This because abundantly clear that the hearings is considering the fiscal 2018 budget for the Commonwealth of Puerto Rico. On June 2nd, 2017, you approved and issued an unanimous written concern resolution condition to the fiscal budget reflecting the certain changes. The board considered the budget in a substantial compliance with the certified fiscal plan, but you note that there were some outstanding questions. Regarding spending reduction, none of these specific issues were reported by the board to the public. Don't you think that it will be in the best interest of all the board determined that the budget presented by the governor was not in compliance, but an issue immediately a notice of violation as required by Section 202C1BI of PROMESA? It is not until June 27 that you write to the leadership of the legislature the specific corrective actions is required to make the budget consist with the fiscal plan. It is not until 3 days before the end of the fiscal year that the board issued a notice of violation, and we become aware that the budget was to be amended to conform it to the requirement, or else the board will impose its own budget. But worse, during all this time, the leadership of the House of Representatives and the government representative on the board has been saying to the public that in the meetings with the board representatives, agreements on the budget has been reached. In our opinion, the board has failed in its commitment to be transparent with the people of Puerto Rico and has failed to raise your concern on time and truthfully. This will be the first budget approved by the legislature and the board, with the Puerto Rico having filed Title III of PROMESA. This bankruptcy proceeding itself creates a significant uncertainty, arise doubt, and concern that needs to be addressed by all involved under such circumstance. It is only fair that complete transparency of the analysis that led the decision of the budget be shared with the public. It has not been forthcoming. Will the board agree to provide us with such a basic information that the people has the right to expect and deserve? Think about this, and just a couple minutes more. If you are a non-for-profit organization in Puerto Rico, providing essential services to disadvantaged people, how do you know if your program will be affected? If you are a municipality in Puerto Rico, how do you know if the certain degree, a certain health service you provide to the citizens will be affected? Even if you are a local small business, how do you plan ahead to survive in this difficult environment? You have no idea how the cost of doing business will be affected and what new taxes will be approved. An individual cannot manage their personal budget because they have no information and to increase in tolls, in medicine, and basic materials they consume for their daily subsistence. By not being completely transparent, the board creates an unnecessary, stressful, and mysterious environment that is affecting our daily life. We strongly recommend that you adopt Detroit's transparency efforts, such as the publication of weekly cash positions, monthly operation report covering right-sizing government with respect and consolidating of the services to provide to the people of Puerto Rico. Result of specific efficiency measures implementation to improve the collection of taxes by the Treasury Department, statistics as the level of human resources in government and its impact of the labor cost. Not less important, the board should report all measures taken to improve the economy of Puerto Rico, in particular the new private and public investment, public-private partnership agreement, and federal transfers. We cannot move forward together, Mr. President, unless there is a completely transparency and trust. Let me remember the board that PROMESA was a bipartisan agreement in Congress, with the minority representatives actually participating in the markup and enactment. Regularly in Puerto Rico, minorities are not included in the deliberation of the board roles and its vision and interpretation of the goals of PROMESA. We look forward to working with you for the benefits of the people of Puerto Rico. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Representative. I'm sure Mr. Sanchez will want to comment. I just would like to say that what we've accomplished, we did so complying with the law. I will grant you that we have to do a better job of posting work product and documentation on a regular basis, so we have to improve in that regard. I would also like to say that I will stipulate that there is a discrepancy between ourselves and the government regarding the issues laid out between the potential furloughs. That's stipulated. But having said those things, I think it's important to note that the budget as submitted by the government was 98% compliant. The governor understood the magnitude of the problem. He reacted quickly, and he and his staff have been very proactive, and we are grateful to the opportunity that we've had to work with them. And I think that's important to point out. Mr. Sanchez, would you like to say?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you so much. In response to Representante Tatito Hernandez, whenever I voice an opinion, it's my own or voicing that of the governor of Puerto Rico. I do not speak on behalf of the board unless it's communicating a decision that is certified by the board. But having said that, I do share part of what you said in terms of things that could hurt cities, things that could hurt our people, our citizens. And that's exactly what we're trying to deal with here to remediate things that should never happen again. If you heard in my presentation, during the years that you were chairman of the Treasury Committee in the House, the trend was $1 billion over expenditure per year in these special and closed appropriations. That really hurts the people of Puerto Rico, that hurts the cities, the towns, pensioners, because the more the government of Puerto Rico got indebted to be able to meet this over expenditure, in a weaker position it is to be able to cover for essential services and to be able to cover for the people that most need. But not only that, in E&Y's presentation, you could see the trend in increasing payroll in years 2015 and 2016. That also hurts. When you're in the middle of a crisis and you're increasing payroll-related expenditures when you should have been letting attrition smooth it out. The reason why this board exists is because Puerto Rico mismanages finance to such a degree that oversight was put here with support of the previous administration who asked for it. So that being said, I concur that we have to really deal with these things that could put our people in a very delicate situation, like lack of controls, over expenditures, increase in payroll. All of these things that happened in the previous administration will never happen again.
Thank you, Mr. Sanchez. Does anybody, do we have any additional comments from the public? Jose Luis. Sí.
Yes, good morning, members of the board. My name is Rocio Mendez. I would like to ask if it's possible for the board to continue and the government to continue negotiations under Title VI, even for those instrumentalities that filed bankruptcy under Title III, and if that's a possibility.
Not only is it the possibility, that's what we intend, and that's our preference. The framework changes, but it's a consensual agreement which we strive for. Did you want to add anything, Natalie?
Mr. Chairman.
Just to clarify, it's consensual negotiations under Title III.
Yeah.
So it's not, we won't continue Title VI if we've agreed and gone to Title III, but we will continue to try and do everything possible to succeed in consensual negotiations, despite the Title III.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, and on behalf of the governor, we're looking forward to the mediation that Judge Taylor Swain has called for, precisely to be able to see if we can reach consensual negotiations.
Any additional comments from the public? Okay, well, thank you very much. Now, in light of the importance of the decision by the board that will be taken today to certify the Commonwealth budget, I would like to call any members of the board to express their particular individual views. If I may, the members that are present by phone, would anybody like to make a comment, please? No?
This is Arthur Gonzalez. Would not at this time.
Very good. Many members of the board here present today, physically?
I would like to echo your comments, Mr. Chair, thanking the teams of the administration as well as the board's team for getting us to this point. As E&Y's presentation shows, tough choices are required, and they're the tough choices that are reflected in the fiscal plan. And this first year's budget, with the suggested recommendations, is a critical down payment in moving towards achieving fiscal balance. And getting Puerto Rico as a house fiscally, fiscal balance is a critical element of being able to attract other entities and be able to get to a place of restoring growth. So appreciate everybody's work, and it's tough choices, but they're the types required to be able to move forward and achieve the goals of PROMESA.
Thank you, Ms. Matos Santos. Mr. Sanchez, any additional comments?
Yes, I would just like to state, fully understand the request made for the reduction in the legislature. We understand that the current reduction of $11 million proposed by the legislature is an amount that is equal to what the executive branch is proposing. So to that effect, we will still reiterate our position of submitting an alternate, more reductions to special appropriations to be able to cover for the legislative action needed in this coming quarter where we need a lot of action that requires a lot of technical support in the legislature as well. So I insist on this amendment that was proposed by the governor to be able to maintain operations in the legislature, number one. And number two, as the chairman stated, we stipulate the differences of opinion on Section 205 of PROMESA, and that's an ongoing conversation that will continue as far as how the government views the amendments proposed and the recommendations or the line item suggested, or the writer suggested. It's a situation where we do not agree, and we stipulate that we don't agree on.
Stipulated. Thank you, Mr. Sanchez. On the basis of the report presented by our Executive Director on the Commonwealth budget and her subsequent recommendations made here today, the Chair requests from the Executive Director whether she would like to propose a resolution for the Board to consider and vote upon.
Yes, Mr. Chair. I would like to propose a resolution, and I'll request Mr. El Khoury to read the same into the record.
Thank you. Whereas on June 30, 2016, the Federal Puerto Rico Oversight Management and Economic Stability Act, PROMESA, was enacted, and whereas Section 101 of PROMESA created the Financial Oversight and Management Board for Puerto Rico, the board, and whereas Section 202C of PROMESA establishes a multi-step procedure for the development, review, and approval of a compliant budget for the Commonwealth of Puerto Rico, and whereas on March 13, 2017, after holding a public hearing, the board certified the governor's proposed fiscal plan for the Commonwealth, subject to certain amendments adopted at the March 13, 2017 meeting. And whereas on April 30, 2017, the governor submitted a proposed budget for the Commonwealth for the fiscal year 2018. And whereas on May 31, 2017, the board approved certain revisions to the previously certified fiscal plan for the Commonwealth and recertified the fiscal plan as so revised. And whereas on June 2nd, 2017, the board approved the aggregate spending level in the governor's proposed budget, but not its specific allocations, including but not limited to earmarks for discretionary spending, for purposes of submission to the legislature pursuant to Section 202C1 of PROMESA, and the board submitted the budget to the legislature pursuant to Section 202C1A2 of PROMESA. And whereas the legislature held hearings on the budget and after deliberation, submitted the budget to the board pursuant to Section 202D1 of PROMESA, and whereas the board and its consultant, advisors, and attorneys reviewed the legislature's territory budget pursuant to Section 202D1 of PROMESA and determined that it does not comply with the previously certified fiscal plan, and whereas pursuant to Section 202D1B of PROMESA, on June 27, 2017, the board issued a notice of violation that included a description of necessary corrective action, and the board gave the legislature an opportunity to correct the violations by June 29, 2017. And whereas by such date, the legislature had failed to adopt a budget that the board determined to be a compliant budget, and whereas the board has revised the territory budget for submission as a revised compliant territory budget to the governor and the legislature pursuant to Section 202D2 and 202E3 of PROMESA. Now, therefore, it is hereby resolved that pursuant to Section 202E3 of PROMESA, the board shall submit to the governor and the legislature pursuant to Sections 202D2 and 202E3 of PROMESA its revised compliant territory budget, and such territory budget shall be 1, deemed to be approved by the governor and the legislature, 2, subject of a compliance certification to be issued by the board to the governor and the legislature, and 3, lie in full force and effect beginning on July 1, 2017. That is the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. El Khoury. Does anybody move that the resolution be approved?
Mr.
I
Chair,
will move the resolution be approved.
I'd like to second that motion.
Then I'd like to ask for a voice vote. Please, those in favor say yes. Yes.
Yes.
Those opposed?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. All members having voted in favor of the motion, the resolution is approved. It has passed unanimously. Presentation of the proposed certification of a Title III petition for Puerto Rico Electric Power Authority, PREPA. As a background to the discussion and consideration of a Title III petition for PREPA as requested by the government, I would like to briefly explain the actions of the board thus far with respect to PREPA, and in particular the RSA that was presented to the board for its consideration. The board reviewed, analyzed, and deliberated at length over the PREPA RSA. For many reasons, the board did not certify and did not authorize use of Title VI to implement it. Those reasons include: the RSA did not appear to be a complete arrangement constituting a pre-existing voluntary agreement under PROMESA because it had significant open issues. Neither PREPA nor the Commonwealth showed how the RSA could be closed, given that over $500 million was needed for closing costs and a gas port to satisfy environmental requirements, among other expenses. The RSA created a significant risk. It would push electric prices materially higher and endanger the entire PROMESA mission of eliminating the fiscal emergency. By making it more expensive to live and do business in Puerto Rico, the RSA made it even harder to turn around the Commonwealth's negative growth over the last decade. If that cannot be changed to sufficient positive growth, no restructuring can be successful. PREPA has a pension plan underfunded by approximately $2.2 billion and inefficient labor agreements. Neither of those issues can be resolved in Title VI. The Oversight Board explained to the PREPA creditors how they would change the RSA to satisfy the foregoing concerns while retaining most of their economic issues, but they declined to make changes. In light of this background, I would like to ask our Executive Director, Mr. Esco, to present to the Board her recommendations regarding certification by the Board of a Title III petition for PREPA as requested by the Government of Puerto Rico.
Mr. Chair, given the current situation and the attendant risks facing PREPA, we would recommend that the Board proceed to consider and vote on a resolution authorizing the filing of a Title III petition for PREPA. Notably, we are in ongoing negotiations with creditors. We are hopeful we will make progress and that may affect the timing of a Title III filing. But these negotiations are in the interest of all stakeholders.
Very good. I'd like to move to public comment of the proposed certification of a Title III. Like public comments regarding the budget, please limit your comments up to 3 minutes. Express your views. Any person interested, please stand up. A microphone will be brought to you. Please state your name and your affiliation. Would anybody like to say something? There being no public comment, in light of the importance of the decision by the Board I will be taking today regarding a Title III petition for PREPA, I will call on any board member who wishes to express their individual views regarding this issue. Let me begin by offering the opportunity to the Governor's representative, Mr. Sanchez.
Mr. Chairman, I have no further comments beyond the letter stated by the Governor of Puerto Rico requesting the Title III.
Thank you, Mr. Sanchez. Does any other board member have any comments regarding this petition?
I'll say a word, Mr. Chairman. I would just like to say what I think is obvious to everyone, and that is PREPA is absolutely essential to the financial recovery of the island. It's really a linchpin of moving out of the problems that the island has been experiencing. We've wrestled with PREPA a great deal. We've made a number of very difficult decisions. One of them is this decision to authorize a Title III. In my view, it is absolutely essential, and that this is one of the key steps to moving forward. So I enthusiastically support the recommendation that we have the Title III option.
Very good. Thank you. On the basis of the recommendations by the Board Executive Director on the proposed certification of a Title III for the Puerto Rico Electric Power Authority, the Chair requests from the Executive Director whether she would like to propose a resolution to the Board to consider and vote upon.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I would like to propose such a resolution, and I'll request that Mr. El-Khoury read the same into the record.
Thank you. Whereas on June 30, 2016, the Federal Puerto Rico Oversight Management and Economic Stability Act, PROMESA, was enacted, And whereas Section 101 of PROMESA created the Financial Oversight and Management Board for Puerto Rico, the Oversight Board. And whereas on September 30, 2016, Puerto Rico Electric Power Authority, PREPA, was designated by the Oversight Board as a covered territorial instrumentality pursuant to Section 101D1A of PROMESA. And whereas the Oversight Board has been advised that PREPA desires to effect a plan to adjust its debts pursuant to Title III of PROMESA. And whereas in connection with the commencement of a Title III case for PREPA, the Oversight Board is required, 1, pursuant to Section 206 of PROMESA, to make certain restructuring determinations as defined below, and to issue a restructuring certification as to such determinations. And 2, pursuant to Section 104J of PROMESA, to certify the filing by PREPA of a voluntary petition under Title III of PROMESA. And whereas following discussions with PREPA and its legal and financial advisors, and after consultation with the Oversight Board's legal and financial advisors, and following extensive deliberation, the Oversight Board has determined in its sole discretion that 1, PREPA has made good faith efforts to reach a consensual restructuring with creditors. 2, PREPA has adopted procedures necessary to deliver timely audited financial statements and made public draft financial statements and other information sufficient for any interested person to make an informed decision with respect to a possible restructuring. 3, PREPA is a covered territorial instrumentality that is subject to a territorial fiscal plan certified by the Oversight Board. And 4, no order approving a qualifying modification under Section 601 of PROMESA has been entered with respect to PREPA. The foregoing determinations, the restructuring determinations. And whereas following discussions with PREPA and its legal and financial advisors, and after consultation with the Oversight Board's legal and financial advisors, and following extensive deliberation, the Oversight Board has determined it is necessary and appropriate in order to protect the residents of Puerto Rico and in the best interest of the creditors of PREPA for a voluntary petition under Title III of PROMESA to be filed for PREPA in the United States District Court for the District of Puerto Rico, the District Court. And whereas it is the Oversight Board's intention in making its determination in connection with such Title III filing, that such filing shall not preclude efforts to implement consensual debt restructurings if possible and practicable, and to continue negotiations with the creditors of PREPA with a view to implementing consensual debt restructurings to the extent possible and appropriate. Now, therefore, it is hereby resolved that the Oversight Board approves and certifies the restructuring determinations pursuant to Section 206 of PROMESA. And it is further resolved that pursuant to Section 104J of PROMESA, the Oversight Board approves and certifies the filing in the District Court of a voluntary petition under Title III of PROMESA for PREPA at such time as the Chair or Executive Director of the Oversight Board determines to be appropriate. And it is further resolved that for the avoidance of doubt, this resolution shall constitute, 1, the restructuring certificate required to be issued by the Oversight Board pursuant to Section 206 of PROMESA, and 2, the certification required to be issued by the Oversight Board for the filing of a Title III petition for PREPA pursuant to Section 104J of PROMESA. And it is further resolved that the Executive Director, General Counsel, and any other officer of the Oversight Board now or hereafter appointed by the Oversight Board, each an authorized officer, shall be and each hereby is authorized and empowered to execute and publish, including by attaching a copy thereof to a Title III petition filed for PREPA, a certificate or certificates that certify, 1, the restructuring determinations of the Oversight Board pursuant to Section 206 of PROMESA, 2, the filing of a Title III petition for PREPA pursuant to Section 104J of PROMESA, and 3, the other approvals and authorizations of the Oversight Board set forth in these resolutions. And it is further resolved that each authorized officer shall be and each hereby is authorized and empowered to file in the name, to execute and file in the name and on behalf of the Oversight Board as the quote-unquote representative of PREPA pursuant to Section 315 of PROMESA, all petitions, paren, including but not limited to a Title III petition, close paren, schedules, motions, lists, applications, pleadings, affidavits, and other papers to be filed in the District Court, open paren, and in such other courts of competent jurisdictions as may be applicable, close paren, and in connection therewith to employ and retain all assistance by legal counsel, accountants, financial advisors, investment bankers, and other professionals, and take and perform any and all further acts and deeds which such authorized officer deems necessary, proper, or desirable in connection with PREPA's Title III case. That is the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. El-Khoury.
Mr. Chairman, I will move that the recommended resolution be approved.
Thank you. Would anybody like to second the motion?
I second the motion.
Then I'd like a voice vote. Those in favor, please say yes.
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 All of the members having voted in favor of the motion, the resolution is approved. The resolution has been passed unanimously. Let's move on to the presentation of the proposed budget for the GDB of Puerto Rico. I would like to welcome Mr. Gerardo Portela, Executive Director of the Puerto Rico Fiscal Agency and Financial Advisory Authority, who will present the proposed budget for Government Development Bank of Puerto Rico together with its president, Mr. Cristian Sobrino. After their presentation, the board may proceed to ask questions about their budgets. Welcome, Mr. Portela and Mr. Sobrino.
Good morning, members of the board. My name is Gerardo Portela Franco, and I am the Executive Director of the Puerto Rico Fiscal Agency and Financial Advisory Authority. Today, the government of Puerto Rico presents to the Fiscal Oversight and Management Board the proposed budgets for the Government Development Bank of Puerto Rico, the Puerto Rico Aqueduct and Sewer Authority, the Puerto Rico Electric Power Authority, and the Puerto Rico Highway and Transportation Authority. The certification of these fiscal year 2018 budgets are in accordance to Section 202 of PROMESA, and is a critical step towards reducing uncertainty, stabilizing operations, providing essential services, and restoring the quality of life for the citizens of Puerto Rico. The GDB fiscal plan was certified on April 28, 2017. The proposed GDB fiscal year 2018 budget is consistent with the GDB certified fiscal plan. The proposed GDB budget recognizes both the achieved and proposed reduction in payroll and other operating expenses. Further reductions can be achieved as GDB continues its efforts to achieve a qualifying modification under Title VI of PROMESA. For the purpose of the budget, the GDB budget assumes consummation of the Title VI transaction in fiscal year 2018 with associated transaction expenses, but overall reduced operating expenses after the closing. We request that the board certifies the GDB budget for the fiscal year 2018 in accordance with Section 202 of PROMESA. Now I'll leave you with the president of GDB, Cristian Sobrino.
Thank you, Jerry. Thank you. Board members, I think, let's see if this is working. Okay.
Disclaimer.
Trigger. The GDB recommended budget for fiscal year 18 is approximately $28.9 million. This budget reflects a 15% reduction from fiscal year 17 actual operating expenses on an 11-month annualized basis. The budget is also 15% below the budget example that was included in the GDB certified fiscal plan. The principal changes are driven by reductions in payroll and related costs, rent and utilities, and other operational expenses. $8.2 million are payroll expenses, while $3.9 million are related to our labor restructuring program. Through our voluntary separation program, we have been able to reduce, as of today, payroll expense by over 30%. Over 80% has opted into the program and would leave GDB gradually over the upcoming 12 months. The GDB budget is also based on revenues from GDB assets exclusively, and no appropriations or funds for the central government, are assumed or expected. Also, as indicated by Mr. Portela, our budget was prepared contemplating consummation of the RSA through Title VI, although we recognize that that certification has not been provided by the board as of this date.
We would also, in the spirit of accountability, provide the board some achievements, updates on achievements. First off, we had a certified fiscal plan. An RSA was announced with a significant portion of GDB's financial creditors and became effective on May 17th. The GDB also announced with a FOMB that over 50% of the participating bond claims included in the are contemplated on the RSA have become a party. Our PMO structure has been implemented, and recently an REO of a real estate property was adjudicated through an RFP process for $13 million. That would contemplate approximately between 20% or 1/6 of the amounts that were expected to be achieved through sale of real estate in the fiscal plan. As mentioned earlier, 80% of GDB's workforce has opted into the voluntary separation program, and GDB has reached a preliminary agreement to settle one of the key contingent liabilities under the RSA. This is a history of the operational expenses of the GDB for fiscal years 15 and 17. What we can see is that compared to fiscal year 16, we have a 70% reduction. Compared to actual 17, we have a 17% reduction, sorry, a 15% reduction. Our recommended budget for this year is again $28.8 million. It is an almost $5 million reduction compared to 17 actual, for a 15% reduction. And with this, we close our presentation, and again echo the Executive Director's request for certification.
Thank you, Mr. Sobrino. I would like to ask our Executive Director, Mr. Esco, to walk us through the process of which the board reviewed and assessed the GDB's proposed budget and present any recommendations to said budget.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First, to describe the general process through which the board reviewed and assessed the budgets of GDB, as well as the other instrumentalities to be discussed later in today's session. I'll turn to my recommendation afterwards for the GDB proposed budget. The board reviewed the budgets for consistency with the certified versions of the instrumentalities' fiscal plans and against any in-progress and submitted amendments that the board had received since those certifications. To the best information available at the time, the budgets were also reviewed for consistency with the Commonwealth fiscal plan and budget. The board has also engaged the government and its instrumentalities to share its initial guidance on revisions to the budgets, and the government and its instrumentalities have responded to some of this initial guidance and revised their budgets in turn. Now turning to the GDB budget specifically, the GDB budget presents operating expenses consistent with the wind-down scenario described in the GDB fiscal plan. While certain items are still subject to ongoing negotiations and discussions, I recommend that this board certify the budget with the understanding that any revisions to future fiscal plans would entail an amendment to the budget as well.
Thank you, Mr. Esco. Now let's proceed to public comment, if any, regarding the proposed budget for the GDB in Puerto Rico. Again, the protocol that we've established. If anybody has any questions, please raise your hands and we will bring the microphone to you. There being no question or comment, let's proceed to the certification of the proposed budget. In light of the importance of the decision by the board that will be taken today to certify the budget for the GDB, I would like to ask if any member of the board would like to express their individual view. Oh, very good. On the basis of the report presented by the board's executive director on the proposed budget for GDB and her recommendations, the chair requests from the executive director whether she would like to propose a resolution.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I would like to propose a resolution, and I request Mr. El-Khoury to read the same into the record.
Thank you. Whereas on June 30, 2016, the Federal Puerto Rico Oversight, Management, and Economic Stability Act, PROMESA, was enacted, and whereas Section 101 of PROMESA created the Financial Oversight and Management Board for Puerto Rico, the board, And whereas Section 202C of PROMESA establishes a multi-step procedure for the development, review, and approval of budgets for covered instrumentalities of the Commonwealth of Puerto Rico, providing that 1, the governor must submit a proposed budget to the board must review the proposed budget and determine in the board's sole discretion either that the proposed budget complies with the applicable fiscal plan or that it does not, in which case the board must issue a notice of violation and recommend revisions, giving the governor an opportunity to correct the violations. The governor may then submit a revised proposed budget. And 4, if the governor fails timely to submit a proposed budget that the board determines in its sole discretion is a compliant budget, the board shall develop and submit to the governor its own compliant budget. And whereas on April 28, 2017, after holding a public hearing, the board certified the governor's proposed fiscal plan for the Government Development Bank for Puerto Rico, the GDB, and whereas on June 19, 2017, the governor submitted to the board a proposed budget for GDB for the fiscal year 2018, and whereas the governor, the board, GDB, and their representatives, consultants, advisors, and attorneys engaged in extensive discussions about the proposed budget, and whereas the board is satisfied that the most recent version of the proposed budget complies with the fiscal plan that the board previously certified for GDB, and whereas the previously certified fiscal plan will likely be revised in the near future, but any such revisions have not yet been finalized by GDB or certified by the board, and whereas if the board certifies a revised fiscal plan or develops and submits its own revised fiscal plan, the board intends to ensure under Section 202A of PROMESA that the certified budget be revised to conform to the revised fiscal plan. Now, therefore, it is hereby resolved that pursuant to Sections 202C1A and 202E2 of PROMESA, the board approves and certifies the governor's proposed budget for GDB as compliant with the fiscal plan previously certified for GDB. And it is further resolved that pursuant to Section 202E2 of PROMESA, the board shall issue a compliance certification to the governor. And it is further resolved that this certification is subject to any subsequent changes that might be made in a revised fiscal plan for GDB if the board certifies any such revised fiscal plan or develops and submits its own revised fiscal plan. And it is further resolved that if the governor proposes a revised fiscal plan and if the board certifies that revised fiscal plan, or if the board develops and submits its own revised fiscal plan for GDB, the certified budget must be revised to comply with any such revised fiscal plan. That is the resolution, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. El-Khoury. Would anybody
Mr. Chairman, I move that the offered resolution be approved.
Thank you, Mr. Gonzalez.
And I'd like to second that motion.
I'd like to ask for a vote. Those in favor, please say yes.
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 Yes. Yes.
Yes.
All members having voted in favor of the motion, the resolution is approved and it has been passed unanimously. Now, let us move on to the presentation of the proposed budget for the Puerto Rico Highway and Transportation Authority. I would like to ask Mr. Portela, the Executive Director of AFAF, to propose the budget for the Puerto Rico Highway and Transportation Authority together with Secretary Carlos Contreras, the Secretary of the Department of Transportation and Public Works. After their presentation, the board may have questions regarding the budget. Thank you. Welcome, gentlemen. Bienvenidos.
Gracias.
Begin when you're ready, please.
Sorry. The Puerto Rico Highways and Transportation Authority fiscal plan was certified on April 28, 2017. The proposed PRHTA fiscal year 2018 budget is consistent with the PRHTA certified fiscal plan. The proposed budget accounts for the necessary maintenance, construction, and services to the island's highway system. Furthermore, the budget proposed by PRHTA ensures the efficient use of state and federal resources for Puerto Rico's roads, infrastructure, and initiatives to improve its operations. We request that the board certify the PRHTA budget for the fiscal year 2018 in accordance with Section 202 of PROMESA. Now I'll leave you with Secretary of the PRHTA, Carlos Contreras.
Thank you, Geraldo. Good morning to Chairman Carrion, to the other members of the board, to Elias Sanchez, representative of the governor, and to the executive director, Mrs. Yaresco. For the record, my name is Carlos Maximino Contreras Aponte. I'm the secretary of the Department of Transportation and Public Works of Puerto Rico, and I'm also the executive director of the Puerto Rico Highway and Transportation Authority. At this moment, I would like to ask permission to the chairman to let Attorney Juan Maldonado, legal counsel of both agencies, to read our presentation, and after the presentation, I will be available for questions or comments.
Thank you very much, Mr. Secretary, of course.
Good morning to the chairman and the members of the board, Executive Director Yaresco. For the record, my name is Attorney Juan Maldonado. I am the General Counsel for both the Department of Transportation and Public Works and the Puerto Rico Highways and Transportation Authorities. The PRHTA's mission is to lead Puerto Rico towards economic development through an efficient transportation system. This mission guides our vision to promote an integrated transportation system that facilitates such development. Our budget reflects PRHTA's focus on its infrastructure of over 8,105 kilometers of roads through the Capital Improvement Program. These roads are divided between 188 kilometers of toll roads, 445 kilometers of primary roads, 410 kilometers of primary urban roads, 1,696 kilometers of secondary roads, and 5,366 kilometers of tertiary roads. As you can see, we have a budget of $538,763,000 in resources, and it's a balanced budget with our projected expenditures. The resources are divided between the expected toll revenues of $137 million, $120 million of the government transfers, $155 million of federal funds, $97,963,000 of the infrastructure state funds, and $28,800 million of other incomes from the own authority. On the expenditure sides, we have 28,800,000. In the expenditure sides, we have capital improvement program for 199 million. We have other capital improvement costs of 97,963,000, and we have operational costs of 241,800,000. The capital improvement program, as you can see, is divided between the 135 million of the STIP or federal program, which divides itself 25% for non-NHS improvements, 50% for NHS improvements, and 25% for safety improvements. And then we have the 75 million CAPEX funds, which are divided 50 million for repavement, bridges, and reconstruction, and 25 million for improvements on PR 52 and PR 53, according to the federal regulation. Our priority capital improvement projects include the dynamic toll lane, the comprehensive cancer center development, the accelerated repavement projects, the Naranjito Bridge, and the secondary and tertiary roads rehabilitation. Regarding the reduced cost initiatives that are ongoing, there are two that are already completed, which is the pre-retirement program that as of today, 131 employees are taking retirement, and a reduction on fringe benefits of 1.8 million on the health insurance of the employees. Now, we have also for fiscal year 2018, overhead savings of 4.5 million, lease savings of 1 million, toll collection optimization that will approved or increased for 5.9 million, and we have the joint development program and real estate excess properties that represent an additional 3.8 million. Next steps moving forward, we will implement the capital improvement programs. We will continue to monitor the budget. We will maximize the use of federal funds, and we will implement the initiatives provided for in the fiscal plan. Now, the Secretary will be open for questions.
Thank you very much for your presentation. Do any members of the board have questions for these government officials? No. There being no questions, I would like to ask our Executive Director, Mr. Esco, to present to the board certain recommendations regarding the budget.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The PRHTA budget presents revenues, operating expenses, and construction expenses largely consistent with the fiscal plan and its in-progress amendments. But given the non-final nature of current amendments to the fiscal plan, I recommend that this board certify the budget, requiring the budget to be amended to conform with the amendments to the fiscal plan once finalized and certified, and that these steps be completed within 45 days from today.
Thank you, Mr. Esco. Now we'd like to move to public comment from the floor. Again, following the established protocol, I'd like to recognize the presence of Senator Eduardo Batia. Welcome, Senator. Jose Luis.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I am seeing the members of the financial team of the governor, and I was waiting for them to wrap up all their presentations. It seems to me that there's a point that needs to be clarified to the people of Puerto Rico, to the Puerto Rico Senate, to the Puerto Rico House in general. It's a point that I would say falls into both transparency and clarity. And that has to do with the approval of the March 13th fiscal plan. Yesterday, both Mr. Portela and Mr. Sobrino made a staggering statement in Puerto Rico saying that the board amendments to the fiscal plan on March 13th are not part of the fiscal plan. So in order to clarify whether for example, the Fairlaw amendments, the Christmas bonuses amendments, based on reaching certain goals in the budget, whether those amendments are, as they called it yesterday, simple recommendations and proposals, or are these written in stone, part of the fiscal plan? And the reason why I'm raising it right now is that having heard throughout the morning the different components of the budget, I think it is fundamental that in order for all the interested parties, stakeholders, and the people of Puerto Rico as a whole to understand the nature of the current budget, we have to really know whether there is already an inclusion in the fiscal plan of a mechanism to deal with lack of liquidity. It may happen, it may not. But if it does happen, that we don't have enough liquidity, that a Fairlaw mechanism will trigger in. And I don't know if the members of the board can actually address that, or they can actually clarify. And the question is very simple. Are the amendments made by the board to the fiscal plan part of the fiscal plan, or are they not part of the fiscal plan as the representatives of the governor stated yesterday? And thank you, and my greetings to all the members and to the executive director.
Yeah, it's good to see you, Senator. As we answered to your colleague from the House earlier today, we stipulate our differences with the government regarding their interpretation and our interpretation of the certified fiscal plan. We do not view that which you stated as a recommendation. We view it as an integral part of said plan. And that's our position, and I think the governor has made his position clear that he is not in agreement with that. Having said that, with regards to any issues of liquidity, did you want to expand on anything, or are we? No? Okay. Did that answer your question?
I know you have stipulated there are differences, so then the question would become, who will resolve those differences?
Apparently, it might be a court.
So are you anticipating that there will be litigation over this subject?
We're not anticipating. We're anticipating that the government will comply. If they do not, and we have a stipulated difference, the manner to go about resolving that difference would be in court. We hope that that's not the case. The government has been extremely cooperative, and we hope to reach an agreement. If that were not the case, we've already had, I've already stated that publicly, and I think the government has as well. Thank you. Did you want to add something?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, just as we answered to Tatito, who posed exactly the same question, we stipulate the difference with the Oversight Board. We interpret Section 205 of PROMESA differently from the board, and as the Chairman just stated, we stipulate the difference, and in case that there is any action taken, then we will see it in court.
Can I just as a finishing statement, I don't want to prolong this anymore, but I just think it's honestly, it's really hurting the people if there are two different fiscal plans, one approved by the board and one that the governor thinks includes and one the board thinks does not include the furlough system. So I think that's crucial, and I think there is nothing more fundamental for public workers out there than to know if they are going to be partly laid off for 4 days or 1 day or whatever it is. But having two different versions of the fiscal plan only fuels uncertainty that at this stage of the game should not exist in Puerto Rico. So I would highly recommend that whatever differences the board has with the governor, that they should be addressed as soon as possible. Thank you.
That is our wish as well, Senator. Thank you very much for your presentation.
But it should be said, Mr. Chairman, if I may, that to answer the senator's question, there is only one certified fiscal plan, the plan that the board certified. There may be a dispute if the government disagrees with some things that they may want to address, but there aren't two fiscal plans. There is just one certified fiscal plan, which includes the provisions that were adopted by the board.
Thank you, Jose Ramon. In light of the importance of the decision, does anybody have any questions regarding the Puerto Rico Highways and Transportation Authority? Very good. Thank you. In light of the importance of the decision by the board that will be taken today to certify the budget for the HTA, I will call on those board members who wish to express their individual views. Do we have any individual views regarding this particular issue? I see we do not. Thank you. Mr. Sanchez, would you like to add anything regarding the HTA?
I have nothing to add there.
Thank you. On the basis of the report presented by the Board Executive Director on the proposed budget for the HTA and her recommendations, the Chair requests from the Executive Director where she would like to propose a resolution for the Board to consider and vote upon.
Yes, Mr. Chair. I would like to propose a resolution, and I'll request again that Mr. El-Khoury read the same into the record.
Thank you. Whereas on June 30, 2016, the Federal Puerto Rico Oversight Management and Economic Stability Act, PROMESA, was enacted, and whereas Section 101 of PROMESA created the Financial Oversight and Management Board for Puerto Rico, the board, and whereas Section 202 of PROMESA, 202C of PROMESA establishes a multi-step procedure for the development, review, and approval of budgets for covered instrumentalities of the Commonwealth of Puerto Rico, providing that 1, the governor must submit a proposed budget to the board, 2, the board must review the proposed budget and determine in the board's sole discretion either that the proposed budget complies with the applicable fiscal plan or that it does not, in which case the board must issue a notice of violation and recommended revisions, giving the governor an opportunity to correct the violations. 3, the governor may then submit a revised proposed budget. And 4, if the governor fails timely to submit a proposed budget that the board determines in its sole discretion is a compliant budget, the board shall develop and submit to the governor its own compliant budget. And whereas on April 28, 2017, after holding a public hearing, the board certified the governor's proposed fiscal plan for the Puerto Rico Highways and Transportation Authority, the HTA, with certain amendments. And whereas on June 19, 2017, the governor submitted to the board a proposed budget for HTA for fiscal year 2018. And whereas the governor, the board, HTA, and their representatives, consultants, advisors, and attorneys engaged in extensive discussion about the proposed budget. And whereas the board is satisfied that the most recent version of the proposed budget complies with the fiscal plan with the amendments that the board previously certified for HTA. And whereas the previously certified fiscal plan will likely be revised in the near future, but any such revisions have not yet been finalized by HTA or certified by the board. And whereas if the board certifies a revised fiscal plan or develops and submits its own revised fiscal plan, the board intends to ensure under Section 202A of PROMESA that the certified budget be revised to conform to the revised fiscal plan. Now, therefore, it is hereby resolved that pursuant to Sections 202C1A and 202E2 of PROMESA, the board approves and certifies the governor's proposed budget for HTA as compliant with the fiscal plan previously certified for HTA. And it is further resolved that pursuant to Section 202E2 of PROMESA, the board shall issue a compliance certification to the governor. And it is further resolved that pursuant to Section 201A, the governor shall present to the board within the 45 days from the date hereof a revised fiscal plan for HTA that incorporates the amendments included in the resolution adopted by the board on April 28, certifying the fiscal plan for HTA. And it is further resolved that this certification is subject to any subsequent changes that might be made in a revised fiscal plan for HTA if the board certifies any such revised fiscal plan or develops and submits its own revised fiscal plan. And it is further resolved that if the governor proposes a revised fiscal plan, and if the board certifies that revised fiscal plan, or if the board develops and submits its own revised fiscal plan for HTA, the certified budget must be revised to comply with any such revised fiscal plan. That is the resolution, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Akuri.
Mr. Chair, I would like to move that the board approve this resolution.
Mr. Chair, I second that motion.
Thank you, Kako. Then I'd like to ask for a voice vote. Those in favor, please say yes. Yes.
No.
Those opposed say no. There
Yes.
being all members having voted in favor of the motion, the resolution is approved and passed unanimously. Let's move on. Thank you very much. Thank you very much to the Secretary, Licenciado. Muchas gracias. Let's move on to the presentation of the proposed budget for the Puerto Rico Aqueduct and Sewer Authority, PRASA. I would like to welcome once again Jerry Portela, Executive Director of the Puerto Rico Fiscal Agency and Financial Advisory Authority, who will present the proposed budget of PRASA together with Mr. Eli Diaz Atienza, the Executive Director of PRASA. After their presentation, we may have questions. Thank you for being here, Eli, and welcome both.
Thank you. The PRASA fiscal plan was certified on April 28, 2017. The proposed fiscal plan, the proposed PRASA fiscal year 2018 budget is consistent with the PRASA certified fiscal plan. PRASA's budget recognizes the essential service the utility provides to the citizens of Puerto Rico, and it maintains compliance with environmental and clean water federal requirements. The proposed budget ensures adequate renewal and replacement of infrastructure to maintain quality of service and continuous efforts to reduce non-revenue water and improve its collection efforts. We request that the board certify the PRASA budget for the fiscal year 2018 in accordance with Section 202 of PROMESA. Now I'll leave you with Executive President of PRASA, Mr. Eli Diaz.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Executive Director Natalie Juresco and our team, as well as members of the press and others present. My name is Eli Diaz Atienza. I'm Executive President of the Puerto Rico Sewer and Aqueduct Authority. First, we want to recognize our main objective, which is to recognize the essential service the utility provides to the citizens of Puerto Rico. This includes maintaining compliance with environmental requirements, ensuring adequate renewal and replacement of infrastructure to maintain quality service, reflect continued efforts to reduce non-revenue water and improve collection efforts, as well as guarantee an affordable and reliable service. As you can see, some of the ongoing initiatives that we've been working on include 30 million expense reduction from 1,000 headcount reduction, over 33.2 million kilowatt hours reduction through a comprehensive energy program, as well as 11 million kilowatt hours from PPAs. Reduction of approximately 9 water treatment plants and 3 wastewater treatment plants, amongst closing of approximately 13 commercial offices, as well as 100 million impact on operating revenues and reduce over 100 million gallons daily, in daily production of water production. Our fiscal year 2018 budget, operating budget, as you can see, 2/3 of the budget is basically payroll expenses as well as electricity costs. If we include maintenance and repair and the purchase of chemicals, that will make up approximately 76% of the total budget. Within the other expenses, none of the other expenses individually make up more than 2.5% of the impact of the other expenses. Some of the assumptions for the operating expenses, as stated in our fiscal plan, include payroll costs of 5,000 employees, the pension pay-go, cost reductions reflecting Act 26 of 2017, including reduction of vacation days, elimination of sick leave payment, Christmas bonus reduction, and maximum overtime factors. Electricity includes approximately 660 million kilowatt hours based on consumption, at a price of 0.229 and 0.15 for solar energy in our facilities. Our capital improvement program is mostly made up, if we could see, about 3/4 of our capital improvement program include renewal and replacement and compliance issues related to our consent decrees with EPA. In summary, PRASA's proposed budget amounts to $726 million for operating expenses and $304 million for the capital improvement program. The total needs of PRASA will be covered by a combination of operating revenues and savings expected from debt restructuring, currently under negotiation with both senior and junior creditors, and as established in our certified fiscal plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Ali. Do the board members have any questions of these government officials? Then I would like to ask our executive director to make certain recommendations.
Thank you. The PRASA budget presents revenues, operating expenses, and capital expenses consistent with the PRASA fiscal plan. However, it includes a level of detail greater than that of the fiscal plan. And to ensure consistency and performance against the overall targets of the fiscal plan, I recommend that this board certify the budget, requiring the budget to be amended to conform with the amendments to the fiscal plan once finalized and certified, further amending the fiscal plan to reflect line item details consistent with the level of the budget, and to complete these steps within 45 days from today.
Thank you, Mr. Esco. Now I'd like to open the questions to the floor. Anybody have any questions regarding the PRASA budget presentation? There being no questions, and in light of the importance of the decision by the board that will be taken today to certified, I would like to once again ask if any board member has any particular questions. Okay. On the basis of the report presented by the board executive directors on the proposed budget for PRASA and her recommendations thereon, the chair requests for the executive director whether she would like to propose a resolution for the board to consider.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I would like to propose a resolution and again request that Mr. El Khoury read the same into the record.
Thank you very much. Whereas on June 30, 2016, the Federal Puerto Rico Oversight Management and Economic Stability Act of PROMESA was enacted, And whereas Section 101 of PROMESA created the Financial Oversight and Management Board for Puerto Rico, the board, and whereas Section 202C of PROMESA establishes a multi-step procedure for the development, review, and approval of budgets for covered instrumentalities of the Commonwealth of Puerto Rico, providing that 1, the governor must submit a proposed budget to the board, 2, the board must review the proposed budget and determine in the board's sole discretion either that the proposed budget complies with the applicable fiscal plan or that it does not, in which case the board must issue a notice of violation and recommended revisions, giving the governor an opportunity to correct the violations. 3, the governor may then submit a revised proposed budget, and 4, if the governor fails to timely submit a proposed budget that the board determines in its sole discretion is a compliant budget, the board shall develop and submit to the governor its own compliant budget. And whereas on April 28, 2017, after holding a public hearing, the board certified the governor's proposed fiscal plan for the Puerto Rico Aqueduct and Sewer Authority, PRASA, with certain amendments. Whereas on June 19, 2017, the governor submitted to the board a proposed budget for PRASA for fiscal year 2018. And whereas the governor, the board, PRASA, and their representatives, consultants, advisors, and attorneys engaged in extensive discussions about the proposed budget. And whereas the board is satisfied that the most recent version of the proposed budget complies with the fiscal plan with the amendments that the board previously certified for PRASA. And whereas the previously certified fiscal plan will likely be revised in the near future, but any such revisions have not yet been finalized by PRASA or certified by the board. And whereas if the board certifies a revised fiscal plan or develops and submits its own revised fiscal plan, the board intends to ensure under Section 202A of PROMESA that the certified budget be revised to conform to the revised fiscal plan. Now, therefore, it is hereby resolved that pursuant to Section 202C1A and 202E2 of PROMESA, the board approves and certifies the governor's proposed budget for PRASA as compliant with the fiscal plan previously certified for PRASA, and it is further resolved that pursuant to Section 202E2 of PROMESA, the board shall issue a compliance certification to the governor, and it is further resolved that pursuant to Section 201A, the governor shall present to the board within 45 days from the day hereof a revised fiscal plan for PRASA that 1, incorporates the amendments included in the resolution adopted by the board on April 28, certifying the fiscal plan for PRASA, and reflects line items consistent with the budget being certified on the date hereof. And it is further resolved that this certification is subject to any subsequent changes that might be made in a revised fiscal plan for PRASA if the board certifies any such revised fiscal plan or develops and submits its own revised fiscal plan. And it is further resolved that if the governor proposes a revised fiscal plan, and if the board certifies that revised fiscal plan, or if the board develops and submits its own revised fiscal plan for PRASA, the certified budget must be revised to comply with any such revised fiscal plan. That is the resolution, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Arcuri.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to move adoption of the resolution.
I'd second the motion.
I'd like to ask for a voice vote. Those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
All of the members having voted in favor of the motion, the resolution is approved and it has passed unanimously. Now I'd like to ask for a brief recess for 5 minutes.
I have kissed on a day.
Thank you. If we could continue, please.
Espero que me llamen. Sí, te llamo.
So, moving right along to the last piece of business for today, the presentation for of the proposed budget for the Puerto Rico Electric Power Authority. I would like to welcome Mr. Portela once again, and my understanding is that although Mr. Ramos, the Executive Director of PREPA, is not with us, there will be somebody else accompanying you?
Yes, correct.
CFO
from PREPA. And
the CFO. Welcome, gentlemen. Could you please identify yourselves?
Yes.
Yes, good morning. My name is Nelson Morales. I'm the Chief Financial Officer for the Puerto Rico Electric Power Authority. I'm joined with Mr. Fernando Padilla, who is the Restructuring Advisor under the Office of the Executive Director.
Thank you.
We'd like to excuse the Executive Director for not being able to be here today, Mr. Ricardo Ramos.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for being here. We'll proceed to listen to the budget presentation, and the board may have some questions afterwards. Please begin whenever you're ready. Thank you.
The PREPA fiscal plan was certified on April 28, 2017. The proposed PREPA fiscal year 2018 budget is consistent with the PREPA certified fiscal plan, except as indicated in the presentation. The proposed budget provided the necessary resources for PREPA to continue to provide reliable power and electricity to its customers on the island. Furthermore, the proposed budget takes into account continued improvement in operations and significant investment in the utilities infrastructure. We request that the board certify the PREPA budget for the fiscal year 2018 in accordance with Section 202 of PROMESA. Now leave you with PREPA senior management.
Thank you. The Puerto Rico Electric Power Authority is committed to executing its transformation into a utility of the future, enabled by a rigorous corporate governance framework, including a project management office implementation structure, with ambitious and measurable transformational objectives as identified in the certified fiscal plan. We have developed an emergency implementation plan to deal with the current state of criticality of the operations that has been caused by the level of understaffing resulting from the retirement of skilled personnel, mostly in operational areas. Reduced headcount and employee availability pose a significant operational risk for PREPA, particularly during the hurricane season that began in June. The fiscal year 2018 budget was developed to be consistent with PREPA's certified fiscal plan, with certain adjustments that reflect the most current data regarding necessary and mandatory operational and maintenance needs, as well as the needs identified in the emergency implementation plan. Assumptions and budget requests were adjusted based on identified needs, actual and projected cost data, considerations identified by the Fiscal Oversight Management Board and its advisors, and other known measurable changes. We will now provide an overview of the fiscal year 2018 budget, coupled with relevant background information for the Fiscal Oversight and Management Board consideration and approval. Fernando.
Thank you, Nelson. Good morning, Mr. Chair. Good morning, members of the board. Good morning, Mr. Resco and staff and Fiscal Oversight Board staff. Wanted to present with you, just giving you a little bit of background echoing our CFO. The headcount for PREPA has fallen dramatically since 2012, losing critical employees that have the expertise within the PREPA operation, both on generation and T&D. The cost reduction opportunities are very limited at PREPA, as over 60% of our expenses are not controlled by the utility, as they are for the fuel, the purchase of fuel and energy for our co-generators to produce electricity. Therefore, we're price takers within the market, and our limited ability to control our 100% of our expenses is very limited. However, PREPA has taken drastic measures in order to control those expenses that are under its control. As we see in the chart, our headcount has decreased dramatically, and as a reflection, our expenses that are within our control have been decreasing significantly based on that headcount reduction. However, as we stand and our projections stand for fiscal year 2018, 62% of our expenses will be associated to fuel and purchase power, which represent approximately $1.9 billion. In terms of our components and our assumptions, one of our critical assumptions and our critical path going forward is our rate structure, that we will be sure that will capture all the costs, both fixed and variable, within the base and variable structure within our rate structure component. In addition, we are taking significant a significant strategy going forward to plan adequately our expenses for maintenance and operations within the key generation and transmission and distribution components of our company in order to provide safe and reliable power to our customers. In addition, we will be sure to include all the expenses that are necessary in terms of labor to provide the expertise necessary to run the power utility. When comparing our budget against our fiscal plan budget, we see that the variance is approximately $150 million, mostly associated with the maintenance expense that was included in the fiscal plan of April 28th. Those are associated mostly to the critical necessities, the operational system, the transmission and distribution lines and generation systems need to run appropriately into the system to provide our essential services to the people of Puerto Rico. In addition, we are taking the adequate measures to produce and to strategize to implement the fiscal plan approved by this board and taking into consideration the management of the expenses and also the management and the security through our new rate structure that will capture all the costs related in order to cover our expenses.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions for the management of PREPA? Then I'd like to ask our executive director to present certain recommendations regarding the PREPA budget.
The PREPA budget presents revenues, operating expenses, and capital expenses largely consistent with the PREPA fiscal plan. However, I recommend that the fiscal plan and budget both be amended to reflect the determinations made to date by the board, including those made today, and that those revisions and the resubmission of both the fiscal plan and the budget be done within 45 days from today.
Thank you, Mr. Esco. We'd like to now offer anybody who may have a comment regarding the proposed budget for the Power Authority of Puerto Rico. Welcome.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. My name is Tomás Torres from the ICSE, Instituto de Competitividad y Sostenibilidad Económica. And due to the impact the approval of this budget will have in rate making, and due to Puerto Rico now count with a regulatory independent commission, we'd like to the board to consider the involvement in some manner of the Puerto Rico Energy Commission in the approval of such budget, since it will have direct impact on rate making. Basically, we'll be fixing rate right here by the approval of such budget or within the 45 days proposed period. That is our comment.
Thank you for your comment, and I think that's entirely prudent. We'd very much like to meet with the Independent Energy Board and have those discussions before we certify the PREPA budget. Okay. Do any board members have any questions regarding these issues? Or Natalie, would you like to clarify something?
If I just may clarify, we are more than pleased to meet with the Energy Commission, and of course, everything will be done in accordance with Puerto Rican law. So the role of the Energy Commission in terms of rate making
is respected. Yeah.
Is respected.
Right. Great. Any board members have any questions for the members of the PREPA management? No. On the basis of the report presented by the executive director and her recommendations, the chair requests the executive director whether she would like to propose a resolution to the board to consider.
Yes, I would, Mr. Chair, and I'll ask Mr. Cudi to please read it into the statement.
Thank you. Whereas on June 30, 2016, the Federal Puerto Rico Oversight Management and Economic Stability Act, PROMESA, was enacted, and whereas Section 101 of PROMESA created the Financial Oversight and Management Board for Puerto Rico, the board, and whereas Section 202C of PROMESA establishes a multi-step procedure for the development, review, and approval of budgets for covered instrumentalities of the Commonwealth of Puerto Rico, providing that 1, the governor must submit a proposed budget to the board, 2, the board must review the proposed budget and determine in the board's sole discretion, either that the proposed budget complies with the applicable fiscal plan or that it does not, in which case the board must issue a notice of violation and recommended revisions, giving the governor an opportunity to correct the violations. 3, the governor may then submit a revised proposed budget. And 4, if the governor fails to submit in a timely manner a proposed budget that the board determines in its sole discretion is a compliant budget, the board shall develop and submit to the governor its own compliant budget. And whereas on April 28, 2017, after holding a public hearing, the board certified the governor's proposed fiscal plan for the Puerto Rico Electric Power Authority, PREPA, with certain amendments. And whereas on June 19, 2017, the governor submitted to the board a proposed budget for PREPA for fiscal year 2018. And whereas the governor, the board, PREPA, and their representatives, consultants, advisors, and attorneys engaged in extensive discussions about the proposed budget. And whereas the board is satisfied that the most recent version of the proposed budget complies with the fiscal plan with the amendments that the board previously certified for PREPA. And whereas the previously certified fiscal plan will likely be revised in the near future, but any such revisions have not yet been finalized by PREPA or certified by the board. And whereas if the board certifies a revised fiscal plan or develops and submits its own revised fiscal plan, the board intends to ensure under Section 202 of A of PROMESA that the certified budget be revised to conform to the revised fiscal plan. Now, therefore, it is hereby resolved that pursuant to Section 202C1A and 202E2 of PROMESA, the board approves and certifies the governor's proposed budget for PREPA as compliant with the fiscal plan previously certified for PREPA. And it is further resolved that pursuant to Section 202E of PROMESA, the board shall issue a compliance certification to the governor. And it is further resolved that pursuant to Section 201A and 202A, the governor shall present to the board within 45 days from the date hereof a revised fiscal plan and budget for PREPA that incorporates the amendments included in the resolutions adopted by the board on April 28, certifying the fiscal plan for PREPA and the determinations of the board to date, including determinations made today. And it is further resolved that this certification is subject to any subsequent changes that might be made in a revised fiscal plan for PREPA if the board certifies any such revised fiscal plan or develops and submits its own revised fiscal plan. And it is further resolved that if the governor proposes a revised fiscal plan, and if the board certifies that revised fiscal plan, or if the board develops and submits its own revised fiscal plan for PREPA, the certified budget must be revised to comply with any such revised fiscal plan. That is the resolution, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Carey. Ms. Matos Santos would like to comment.
Mr. Clear, I just have a question about the resolution. When we're talking about the resolution and what we're adopting, we're talking about we'd be certifying the fiscal plan as revised based on the actions that the board has taken to date, and then the budget subject to the revisions recommended by Ms. Yaresco to reflect the actions to date, and then both of those will be submitted to the board within 45 days, right? So the resolution or our action is specific to the fiscal plan and the budget is amended, right?
Exactly.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Curi. Thank you, Ms. Matos Santos. There is would anybody like to make a motion?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I would like to make a motion for the approval of the resolution with the clarifications that were said by Ms. Matos Santos.
Thank you, Mr. Garcia.
I second the motion.
Then I'd like to ask, please, for a voice vote. Those in favor, please say yes.
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 All of the members having voted in favor of the motion, the resolution is approved and has passed unanimously. Since there are no other matters to cover, I move that we adjourn this meeting.
I'll second that motion.
Then I'd like, once again, for a voice vote. Those in favor of adjourning, please say yes.
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 All of the members having voted in favor, the meeting is now adjourned. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
ramas ejecutivas, digo, las demás ramas, discúlpame, las demás ramas. Y la discrepancia surge aparentemente que ellos están utilizando los 10 que ya se han reducido basados en el número que tuvieron el año pasado, que es un número más grande por transición. Utilizamos el promedio de 5, eran 5 años que utilizamos, y eso es lo que lleva a la rama a unos 130 millones de dólares, que yo creo que eso me parece que debería ser suficiente para la... Y es 10% menos, más o menos. Así que... Sí.
Vamos por parte, porque no para entendernos. Dale.
You need to speak into the microphone, otherwise we don't get the translation, okay?
Lo que queremos saber es si la partida de los 13 millones se refiere a los gastos operacionales, o sea, al presupuesto operacional de la legislatura, o si a las asignaciones legislativas.
No, los gastos operacionales.
Guapa Radio.
Sí, muy buenas. ¿En qué momento el pueblo de Puerto Rico va a tener oportunidad de conocer los gastos de la Junta, el desglose de en qué se ha invertido los 60 millones que anualmente va a salir a la Junta?
Sí, perdón, si me permiten, vamos con las preguntas del tema y luego si hay espacio nosotros tocamos estos temas.
Pero vamos, usted tiene una pregunta enteramente legítima. Usted y el pueblo de Puerto Rico tienen el derecho de saber exactamente en qué está gastando la Junta. Y nosotros pondremos eso. We're putting the budget on the website. Sí. Hoy. El presupuesto en términos generales va a salir en el website hoy. No obstante, más detalles se va a estar proveyendo. La directora ejecutiva con muchísimo gusto irá a la legislatura o a otro foro para poder explicar en detalle el presupuesto. El grueso del mismo, desafortunadamente, son lo que ustedes se pueden imaginar, abogados. Por la naturaleza del proceso en que nos encontramos, la mayoría de ese dinero va a abogados. Y la realidad es que, no tengo por qué no decirlo, a nosotros nos da vergüenza, pero estamos en la situación que estamos y tenemos que gastar ese dinero para defender los intereses del pueblo de Puerto Rico. Así que va a estar en el website hoy. La directora va a estar disponible en el futuro para atender esas preguntas y explicar específicamente las partidas designadas y la razón de las mismas.
Sabiones. Y después Luis Guardiola.
Saludos. La otra... Ok, la pregunta primero sobre ese particular, en la parte de los gastos. Ya ustedes definitivamente determinaron que no van a someter la información a la oficina de la Contralora basada en la jurisdicción que ustedes entienden que no tiene. Y segundo, ¿cómo quedó la parte de la rama judicial y lo de Autoridad de Energía Eléctrica? Eso.
La rama judicial ya se había reducido un 10%. Lo que hicimos en el presupuesto es que aclaramos que ellos puedan recibir sus dineros de la manera mensual para que no tuviesen problemas de financiamiento. Así que, consono con lo que hablamos en términos generales para las 3 ramas de gobierno y para el gobierno de Puerto Rico, que se redujo en alrededor de un 10%, pues la rama se redujo también. La segunda pregunta era la ética. ¿Es lo que usted está preguntando? Sí. Nosotros publicamos hoy, como manifestamos en la reunión, nuestros estados, nuestras declaraciones de ética. Como saben, tenemos un oficial de ética. Yo personalmente tuve mi Ethics Review el viernes. Es extenso y ahí salen todos nuestros holdings. Ahí cada cual puede ir y constatar. La forma está diseñada para identificar conflictos de interés. ¿Okay? Que eso es importante. No está diseñada para necesariamente reflejar el net worth de nadie en particular, aunque algunos miembros han decidido poner todo ese detalle. Es un Conflict of Interest Forms y eso salió y está disponible para que todos ustedes pasen juicio. ¿Qué específicamente es lo que usted quiere saber de PREPA?
¿cómo va a quedar entonces ahora el asunto? O sea, vamos
por virtud del título 3.
y el presupuesto.
Bueno, mire, no, es importante que lo que hicimos es autorización para el título 3, pero no lo estamos implementando por unos días. Hay unas conversaciones que se están llevando a cabo y queremos fomentarlas y queremos escuchar y potencialmente llegar a acuerdos. Se votó porque estábamos aquí, es público ante el pueblo y entendemos que tenemos esa herramienta si la fuésemos a necesitar para proteger los activos de nuestro pueblo.
Sí, buenos días. Yo sé que empezamos ya con preguntas específicas, pero quisiera de entrada que nos explicara, para efectos de sonido de muchos de nosotros, el resultado de la sesión de hoy en términos del presupuesto.
Sí.
Y entonces tengo una pregunta.
¿Cómo no? Pues les tendré que decir que el presupuesto en su vasta mayoría cumplía con el plan fiscal certificado en un 90 y pico %. No quiero utilizar el pico, pero en esencia tuvimos unas diferencias con el gobierno, unas conversaciones bastante difíciles y parte de esas diferencias fueron, como ustedes saben, con la legislatura. Fuimos ayer a la legislatura, nos reunimos con los presidentes de los cuerpos y les explicamos nuestra forma de pensar en cuanto a lo que nosotros estábamos solicitando. Y nuevamente, es cónsono con las demás ramas y cónsono con la rebaja que está recibiendo el gobierno de Puerto Rico, que está bajando 800 millones de pesos en gasto. Es un gran logro el presupuesto de este año y, como manifesté públicamente, hay que felicitar al gobierno por lo logrado. Claro, eso no significa que estamos plácemes en todo, hay diferencias y discrepamos de algunas cosas y por allí vendrá la pregunta nuevamente del tema de la limitación de la jornada laboral. Nosotros discrepamos de la interpretación del gobierno y eso esperamos poder llegar a un acuerdo. De no ser así, ya está estipulado que nos encontraríamos en un proceso judicial.
Esa diferencia, mi pregunta original, esas diferencias consisten en qué. ¿Ustedes entienden que tienen el poder de decretarlo? ¿Entienden que ellos están obligados a decretarlo ellos llegado el caso? Y como quedó el presupuesto, ¿en qué momento del año fiscal es que eso se podría producir? Porque en un momento dado se habló de septiembre, pero ahora hay duda de si puede ser tan pronto como ya.
No, bueno, no, lo que estaríamos contemplando, le voy a pedir a Jaime que si puedes atender el tema legal de la pregunta, y le puedo decir que si fuésemos a atender ese tema estaríamos hablando de septiembre. Y ya eso yo lo había manifestado en 2 ocasiones previas. ¿Tú puedes, por favor, Jaime, dar un poco, le puedes repetir el planteamiento legal de por qué nosotros entendemos que tenemos la autoridad para llevar a cabo, para implementar?
Sí, la pregunta es en qué consiste la discrepancia entre la Junta y el gobierno en términos del furlough, de tomar esa medida o no tomarla en el futuro.
Sí. El gobierno sostiene que las enmiendas que se hicieron al plan fiscal del 13 de marzo constituyen unas recomendaciones bajo la sección 205 de promesa. Nosotros sostenemos que esas enmiendas que se hicieron al plan fiscal son parte integral del plan fiscal. Son parte del plan fiscal que se certificó bajo la sección 201. Entonces, esa es la diferencia. Ellos toman como que son recomendaciones y para nosotros realmente, o sea, las enmiendas son parte integral del plan fiscal.
Tengo una de seguimiento, un momentito.
Carrión dice que hay una interpretación por parte del gobierno en torno a la jornada laboral y que no es la que ustedes tienen. Si puede aclarar entonces cuál es la interpretación del gobierno en cuanto al recorte de la jornada y cuál es la interpretación de la Junta.
Yo voy a dejar que el gobierno explique su propia interpretación. Ya nosotros hemos manifestado la nuestra.
Caribbean Business.
Mi pregunta iba mayormente dirigida a lo que dijo el compañero sobre la reducción de jornada. Lo que pasa es que no me queda claro porque según lo que yo entiendo que se aprobó en esa reunión era que el mecanismo comenzaba el 1 de julio a no ser que el gobierno cumpliera con una serie de condiciones y entonces se posponía, por decirlo así, la decisión hasta septiembre si cumplían con eso y en septiembre volvían a reevaluar la situación. No me queda claro ahora si es que lo que ustedes están decidiendo, ¿verdad?, ahora de posponer la implementación de esas medidas hasta septiembre es porque el gobierno cumplió o porque ustedes entienden que no está la cosa para poderla hacer ahora como la habían acordado anteriormente.
Para aclarar, la enmienda que está reflejada en el plan fiscal certificado, como dijo el licenciado Alcuri, tenía dos partes. Número uno, tenía que ver con cuándo empezaría la reducción de jornada. Y eso es lo que tenía que ver si no se lograba 200 millones de liquidez adicional a lo que se había proyectado, pues la reducción de jornada tendría que empezar julio 1. El gobierno cumplió con ese requisito, así que la fecha de julio, pues eso no se va a dar porque llegaron a los 200 millones de liquidez que eran necesarios. Entonces, las enmiendas decían que para el presupuesto, el plan fiscal requiere que empezando en septiembre hay una reducción de jornadas, a menos que el gobierno sometiera suficientes detalles y planes de implementación para otros cambios que la Junta de Supervisión Fiscal pensara que van a llegar a esos ahorros. Algunos de los planes de implementación que se sometieron, nosotros estamos de acuerdo que van a llegar a los ahorros, pero hay otros que no hay los detalles. Y eso es básicamente la enmienda decía, julio, sí la liquidez, eso se llegó, pero lo de septiembre no se ha llegado.
Prensa asociada.
Yes, good morning. Congressman Bishop said this week that Congress provided a path to stability for Puerto Rico and that the board deviated from that plan when it rejected the deal that bondholders had reached with the power company. Could you comment on that, please?
Yes, I can. We deliberated over the Title VI approval process for PREPA for many months. And as you know, it's the only vote that we've taken thus far that was not a unanimous vote. We each expressed the way we felt, and we eventually had to take a decision to vote in light of the lawsuits that were submitted in recent days. We felt we had to move, otherwise we would not be able to safeguard the option. So that's where we are there, and we honor and respect Chairman Bishop's interpretation. There are others who don't feel like he does. Just suffice it to say that the process is working. The board voted, and we made our decision.
El Nuevo Día. Johnny.
Buenos días o buenas tardes ya. ¿Ha solicitado formalmente la Junta la activación de la reducción de la jornada laboral? ¿La ha solicitado? Porque estamos claros que la contingencia está, no entremos en ese lado.
Sí, no,
¿Se ha solicitado?
Lo que se ha solicitado es planes de contingencia por si hay que llevar a cabo la limitación, la limitación de la jornada laboral.
Research Reorg, John Marino.
Yeah, you guys had mentioned that talks are continuing with PREPA creditors. Yesterday, two different creditor groups said they offered the government a refinancing of a bond payment due July 1st and an extension of the RSA. Is that something you're talking about, the July 1st payment, or is that off the table? It's not going to happen?
I can't really comment as to specifics, and I will say that we received recently an approach by interested parties to try to come to a resolution. So that's why we have the tool, as it were, if we needed to go down the path of Title III, but we have not as of yet implemented that. We want to give those conversations space. We did what we had to do with regards to the calendar. Tomorrow is a material day for PREPA, and so we had to do it that way. But we, again, as in this case, as in others, we seek to come to an agreement in the most amicable and manner possible. As you might imagine, these things are very contentious, and we try to do the best that we can to try to find common ground, and at the same time safeguarding the interests of the people of Puerto Rico.
Carlos Rosso. Sí, buenos días. Buenos días a todos. El propósito de mi pregunta era con relación a Rob Bishop, pero ya que hicieron la pregunta, ustedes saben que hay una petición de título 3 para la Autoridad de Energía Eléctrica. Ustedes la van a revisar, y si ustedes están preparados para cambios, que el presidente, el honorable presidente, esté haciendo cambios en los miembros de la Junta.
Ya nosotros acudimos a la petición del señor gobernador y no autorizamos el uso de título 3 si fuese necesario. Así que esa ya lo hicimos esta mañana. En cuanto a qué es lo que puede hacer el señor presidente, pues eso es prerrogativa del señor presidente.
Joel, Centro de Periodismo Investigativo.
Yo quería saber si es correcto que la Universidad de Puerto Rico va a ser considerada como un servicio esencial, y si fuera correcto, ¿cómo eso se reflejaría en el presupuesto?
La Universidad de Puerto Rico recibió un recorte net de, eran 164, ¿verdad? Ana, you remember? 164 millones de dólares. 164. Y sí, es un servicio esencial.
Rafael Lenín, Guapa.
Pero es un servicio esencial y se mantiene el recorte tal y como se había proyectado.
El hecho de que sea un servicio esencial no implica que no reciba recorte.
Pero no hay una reducción en el recorte, aún considerando los servicios esenciales.
Se redujo el recorte. El recorte inicialmente programado eran 200 millones y entonces me corrigieron. Es el mismo nivel.
Es el mismo.
Sí.
¿Y en qué se diferencia el que sea clasificado como servicio esencial?
De ninguna manera. Si lo que me están planteando es que por uno decir lo obvio, que la Universidad de Puerto Rico es un servicio esencial y por ende no va a recibir un recorte, eso no es así. Hay muchos servicios esenciales en el gobierno de Puerto Rico que están recibiendo recortes. Desafortunadamente tenemos que tomar decisiones difíciles. Esa es la naturaleza del proceso.
Mi pregunta entonces era sobre, se discutió algo del subsidio a la leche. Quisiera, no sé si eso...
Sí, yo no tengo idea de lo de la leche. Oh. Eso de la leche llegó a última... Do you know anything of the milk?
Sabira,
sí, llegó algo de eso, pero yo no...
Mike, corrígeme, pero yo creo que básicamente hay un... tengo que cambiar inglés porque no me acuerdo todos los términos en español. There was a proposal to backfill the reduction in the legislature that was associated with eliminating appropriation funds for a legal settlement associated with milk. Exactly what, I'm sure the government can provide greater detail, but that change was not accepted, and that revision to the budget was not accepted as the chair outlined and as the executive director outlined in her recommendations.
Deb Wire.
Hi, over here in the corner.
Es un settlement, no es el subsidio.
Court settlement, sí.
Un seguimiento a esa pregunta.
Por lo que entiendo, entonces, no hay un cambio a la partida que se había dispuesto para atender el settlement.
Correcto.
Correcto. Sí, eso es una discrepancia que tuvimos con el gobierno, y una conversación como muchas, por donde podemos estar de acuerdo, que ha sido en la vasta mayoría, pues estamos de acuerdo, donde no, pues discrepamos.
Okay, I had a follow-up on PREPA. In terms of your other Title III filings, they were approved pretty rapidly, so my question is, why approve the Title III now if you're going to hold back on implementing it or asking the court to follow up on that? And I had a second question, which is, there's a lawsuit in federal court calling for the board to certify the Title VI procedure. How does that lawsuit affect, if at all, the Title III submission or request?
We took the actions we took today in the interests of transparency and to safeguard the interests of the people of Puerto Rico. We chose not to implement a Title III, to give an opportunity for the conversations that are ongoing to come to a conclusion. Do you want to add anything, Jaime?
No, I think that's right. We have, as in each one of the Title III cases that the board has authorized, there's an authorization to commence a Title III, but not necessarily an immediate implementation of that. In the case of PREPA, we are, as members and the executive director has said, we're in ongoing negotiations, and we're hopeful that something might happen in those negotiations. But at this point, we felt, the board felt it was necessary to authorize any future filing of a Title III.
El vocero.
Gracias, buenas tardes. Primero quería preguntar, o más bien como follow-up a la pregunta de Giovanni, ¿por qué hubo una comunicación de the intent of applying el furlough reduction, as the government said in a letter, and that,
sí.
and that the executive director said that to him?
Sí. O sea, se refiere a la carta que yo envié hace 2 semanas atrás al gobierno.
Que el gobernador envió diciendo, advirtiendo que la directora ejecutiva comunicó la intención de aplicar una reducción a la jornada laboral. Entonces, ¿en qué consiste esa intención de?
Sí. Bueno, I guess you want to answer. Yeah. Okay.
So,
Let me do that. La posición es la que le he manifestado a ustedes. No hay una intención per se. Lo que hay es una discrepancia de cómo nosotros vemos las cosas con el gobierno. Es nuestra responsabilidad, como nosotros la vemos, dejarle saber a nuestro pueblo que pudiese surgir esta circunstancia. Esta situación, que lamentable, lo reconocemos. Tenemos, como les manifestamos, una discrepancia con el gobierno. Todavía no estamos al punto donde eso requiere más acción, más allá de que el gobierno sea prudente y prepare planes de contingencia. Ya la posición del gobierno y del gobernador las conocen y estoy seguramente que el licenciado Sánchez elaborará. Nosotros estamos tratando de ser responsables y queremos simplemente dejarle saber al pueblo que existe esa posibilidad de nuestra perspectiva y diferimos con el gobierno en cuanto a la interpretación que ellos tienen sobre un elemento particular que ya abundó el licenciado El Curi. Es difícil, bien difícil. El gobernador ha sido bien directo, bien fuerte en este tema, al igual que sus ayudantes. Y ha sido un punto de diferencia material, lógicamente. Pero en términos generales, en los demás que del presupuesto, pues ha sido un proceso, el 90 y pico %, ha sido un proceso bueno y hemos logrado mucho y el gobierno ha logrado mucho a nombre del pueblo de Puerto Rico.
Diálogo.
Claro, ay, gracias. Era para tener claro en qué consiste esos 200 millones que entienden que se quedan cortos en planes de implementación, si pudiesen especificar, y las enmiendas que solicitaron, aunque aprobaron los planes fiscales de las corporaciones, dijeron que están sujetos a enmiendas prospectivas. ¿En qué consisten esas enmiendas?
En términos de los 440 millones, es más fácil contestarlo de la otra dirección. Hay muchos, como se discute en la carta que el presidente le envió a la legislatura, hay muchos detalles en los cuales hay planes de implementación que nosotros pensamos van a llegar a los números. recortes en contratos, no contratar más empleados hoy día, cambios en los bonos de Navidad. O sea, hay una cantidad de cosas específicas que se han proveído en las cuales nosotros estamos de acuerdo que se van a llegar a esos números y a lo que hay que ahorrar y a los ahorros necesarios. Los 200 millones y con algunos cambios en el presupuesto un poquito más, son las áreas en las cuales no pensamos que hay el detalle necesario para poder llegar a esos ahorros que se asumen en el presupuesto y que son necesarios. Por eso está el cambio que se hizo al presupuesto para asegurarse que se pueda evaluar y, como dijo el presidente, todavía hay discusiones, pero ahora mismo no hay planes específicos que nosotros hemos evaluado que pensamos que van a llegar a los ahorros necesarios.
Nos quedan 3 minutos solamente. Tengo aquí a diálogo.
Sí, buenos días. Es que no se ha explicado, o no sé si va a ser una enmienda tácita, porque si la ley 66 del 2014, que se extendió después con la ley 3 del 2017, que congela la fórmula de la UPR en 833 de lo que recibe del Fondo General, y ahora se propone un presupuesto con 164 menos del Fondo General, como si confligen, ¿no? O si cuando se apruebe el presupuesto ahora es una enmienda tácita a lo que disponen estas leyes de congelación de la fórmula en 833.
Yo te diría que para contestar propiamente tu pregunta, deberíamos de recibir el plan fiscal de la Universidad de Puerto Rico y después te podría contestar eso de una manera educada, porque como no sé lo que contempla el plan fiscal de la universidad, pues no podemos pasar juicio. Lo estamos esperando.
Noticel, rapidito. Vamos a permitir a los compañeros que no han preguntado y luego, si el minuto que me falta, pues puedo repetir acá. Pero ahí Noticel ahí.
Sí, this is for Natalie Jaresco. I understand that you officially moved to Puerto Rico. I would like more details on that.
I moved to Puerto Rico. I don't know what details you want. I live in Puerto Rico. My children are with me. My dog has arrived. Well, I've been here 2 to 3 weeks every month since I was hired. So I moved here personally several months ago when I was first hired. But with my family and my many bags and my dog, last night we arrived at, I think, 1:30 in the morning.
Bueno, terminamos aquí con Sibi y Giovanni.
De otro tema que no se ha tocado todavía, sobre el desarrollo económico. Seguimos viendo que ha habido bien poca acción en términos de lo que es el coordinador de revitalización, no se ha nombrado, no ha habido anuncios sobre proyectos críticos bajo el título 5, obviamente tampoco está el coordinador nombrado. Quisiéramos saber más detalles sobre eso, por favor.
Claro, me informan que ya la negociación en esencia, con la persona una de las personas que habremos de someter al gobernador, hay varios candidatos, pero se han tenido 2 conversaciones con 2 personas y se ha profundizado. Están ya a punto de caramelo, le vamos a hacer llegar esos nombres al gobernador próximamente para que él pueda nombrar a una persona. Recuerde que ese detalle requiere que sea una persona que el gobierno quiera. O sea, no queremos enviarle a alguien que no sea aceptable, y esas conversaciones ya se han tenido. No es como que, y yo creo que también el licenciado Sánchez quizás pueda abundar un poquito más, pero eso está a ley de nada. Lo que sí le quiero decir con el tema de desarrollo económico, nosotros aportaremos y ayudaremos al gobierno y en la medida que nosotros podamos adelantar temas de desarrollo económico, así lo haremos. Pero como ustedes saben, el título 5 del Coordinador de Revitalización esencialmente es la medida específica de desarrollo económico y los proyectos que pueden surgir de allí, que no es insignificante, es material, pero responsabilizar la Junta de Control Fiscal por temas de desarrollo económico por algunas personas sería, o no, quizás no han leído la ley o esperan otras cosas que realmente no está en nuestro poder de otorgar. Si fuese así, créanme que nos hubiésemos movido ya
Última pregunta, Joana Isabel. Nuevo día.
Debió haberse presentado o debió haber completado el análisis del sistema de pensiones. Quisiera saber en qué etapa está eso y que es un asunto también decisivo de impacto presupuestario.
El tema de transparencia y disclose, más documentación y más es un tema que reconozco que tenemos que mejorar. Algunas de las situaciones, francamente, son porque, y no es culpa del gobierno, el gobierno no tiene la documentación o es un proceso, tardan para elaborar la misma y es una situación que entendemos que va a ir mejorando. Nosotros le hicimos y fue parte de la misiva que le redacté al señor, le envié al señor gobernador, de pedir que los reportes que se solicitaron ya hace un tiempo y con regularidad lleguen y que nosotros podamos a su vez o ellos en conjunto disclose al pueblo de Puerto Rico. Usted tiene razón en eso. En cuanto al tema de las pensiones,
Still being worked on. It's not complete.
No está completado.
Muchas gracias. A los miembros de la prensa que se quieran quedar, ahora viene Elías Sánchez.
Muchas gracias y buen día.
Pero la segunda parte de la respuesta.
Buen fin de semana.
Que no está completa.
Me voy. No, ok. Una más.
Ya, gracias.
Ya, ay, qué bueno. Ok, gracias.
Okay.